Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, we have Michelle. She is a somatic business coach. Welcome, Michelle. So happy to have you here with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. So kind of tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of a little bit about your journey, like the Cliff Notes version of your journey, like where, maybe before you started your business and to kind of like where you are right now and how you help people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into coaching, I think probably back in 2017. I had been working for a corporation for 5 years, and I was applying for jobs every single day for a year and not getting any interviews. And I was stuck at this entry-level position. And I really wanted to move into management, and I just couldn't figure out how. So I hired a coach, and within a few months, I was able to get into a management role. I was running a private neuropsychology practice. I mean, it was like everything just exploded in the best way possible. And all throughout my life, I've loved psychology and people. And so I was a psychology major in college, but really realized that I didn't want to focus on pathology. So when I found coaching, it was like, wow, this is amazing. This is everything positive about psychology without all the negative pathologizing of everything. And the reason that I actually started this business, my business, ND Coaching, is because I got an autism diagnosis at 27, which was a complete blindside for me. I had no idea that that would come up. I had friends, I had a boyfriend. I like didn't present the way that I thought autistic people presented, so I didn't believe it. So long story short, I ended up starting this business in the very beginning to serve late realized autistic women. And over the years, I'm a manifesting generator. It has pivoted and changed. And now I'm working as a somatic business coach, helping other coaches who are really struggling to hit those 10K months, get out of the 7x12 jail cell of working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and still not making 10K a month, to regulate their nervous systems so that they can actually do that on a consistent basis.
So I love that. And that was one of my questions that I wanted to kind of, for the people that don't know, or they probably do know, maybe not. When you say this 7x12 jail cell, what does that look like? Kind of like describe what that looks like from, let's just say, like the perspective of your nervous system.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from personal experience. When I was 9 months into business, I burned out because I was working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Every single day I was working from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. I didn't have a regular sleep schedule. Um, I was just doing everything that I'd been told is how you run a business from the coach that I was working with, that just did not align with my sensitive nervous system. And I went into a really deep burnout. And that's what happens when you're running your business from a place of hustle and a place of urgency and just this very masculine energy. And you don't actually honor your own nervous system or your high sensitivity or how you actually need to do your business, how you need to run your life. And you have to honor those rhythms. And so really at about month 9, I completely burnt out and couldn't really work in a meaningful way for the next couple of years because I was recovering from this burnout. I had to change my diet, my lifestyle, my relationships, I started exercising more. I really changed everything. And when I did that, that's when I was able to have the capacity to show up for my clients. And now I'm getting consistent clients. So it's been a complete 180.
Now, when you talk about of course, I have to bring up human design. So when you talk about your manifesting generator, did you find out when did you just find out about this? Did you kind of do this through your journey of burnout? When did you find out about being a manifesting generator?
So I found out shortly after um, I'd gone into burnout, but I was too burned out to really even do any research on human design.
Mhm.
And so it's really been kind of more recently that I've been learning more about it. And I'm loving human design. I'm loving some of the aspects of it. So it's been a good way to kind of understand sort of all the strife that I went through in the first 30 years of my life. And, now that I'm in the next 30 years now. So those are sort of the integration years, and then watch out world when I turn 50.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say I have a very similar experience. I was clinically burnt out probably, I think it was twice. Like I was diagnosed with burnout, but the entire time I was thinking, I was like, I came across human design, I don't know, like 20, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2013. But then I was like, oh, you know, whatever. I just seen it. And then it came back around when I was in like burnout, and I was like, oh my God, I was operating like a generator like my whole life. And then when I have to, I'm like, oh, so I'm not even supposed to be working a 9 to 5 and all that stuff. So it was like, I was working 2 jobs. I was working like 12-hour days, so it was like, I can see why, to the point that I was like so sick, to the point that I was probably the skinniest I was ever in my life. Like I was like, it was just gross, like my energy was just so, it was just, it was, as it was just like, physically, mentally, emotionally, it was just like you were depleted, that you're like, I don't even, how am I going to keep going? So yeah, I definitely can resonate with that. So, can you kind of tell us a little bit about like a method that you use with your clients? Like, if you could, if it wouldn't take too long to like kind of break down each phase and kind of share how you help entrepreneurs scale, like not only scale, but they do it in how they do it in a way that they honor their natural like bandwidth or body's capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two programs. I have a 6 month program and a 12-month program. And the 6 month program is really all about regulating the nervous system. So figuring out what your baseline is and getting you back there. And we use a lot of somatic practices, body movement. Um, I use a lot of yoga philosophy. I have a yoga teacher training certificate, and I actually teach yoga also. So um, I use yoga in my practices to help my clients, and it really kind of depends on the client how woo they are. And if they're woo, we'll go pretty woo. And if they're not too woo, then we'll kind of stick with more like somatic grounding exercises and things that they can do specifically to start to regulate their nervous system. And then really understanding, the relationships that they've been through. What kind of people have they allowed in their life? Are they choosing people that are going to lift them up, or are they choosing people that are dragging them down? And especially for my clients, I tend to work with a lot of neurodivergent women. I think many of them think that we sort of get the relationships that come to us because relationships are a struggle uh,
Mhm.
for this population. But it's really an aha moment when we can work together and have them realize that, oh no, we allow the love we think we deserve. And if you don't allow someone in your life, you're making room for someone who actually belongs there, who's actually going to make your life better, who's going to uplift you. But you have to let go of the people that drag you down first. And you have to have those boundaries in place. You have to understand yourself enough to know what your boundaries are, set those boundaries and enforce them, and then be able to recognize people that aren't safe.
Yeah. So for the listeners that are listening, because maybe like 5 years ago, I didn't really know what neurodivergent was. Like somebody said, "Oh yeah, you're neurodivergent." I was like, "Well, that's new. I have never heard. Like, is that a good thing, bad thing?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I have ADHD." Like, yeah, but I mean, when I was diagnosed when I was like 5 or 6, it was at the time just ADD. Like that's all they knew about that. And then I was put on medication like my whole life. So I feel like that had trauma around it too, because it's just like I never really could be myself. I was always just like this energizing bunny, which is probably why it led to burnout too. Then I stopped taking the medication because it made me feel like a zombie. And I was really angry on it. Like I got so super angry, and then my doctor made it my fault. Well, you need to control your anger. And I'm like, no, you kept me on medication my whole life. And then, I was like, no, now it's my mom and dad's fault. And then that was a cycle of like victim mentality of like everybody else's fault but my own, right? That whole cycle. So can you kind of explain to the listeners that might have ADHD or ADD or whatever whatever they were diagnosed, or they might feel like, I feel like I resonate with her, but maybe they just weren't diagnosed with it yet.
Explain what specifically, just sort of what it's like, or
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Or just explain like what neurodivergent is, like what it means, I should say. And yeah, like how in your experience, how it was for you once you got your diagnosis of autism.
yeah, absolutely. So neurodiversity is basically having a brain that is slightly different than the typical or average brain. They call neurotypical your sort of average brain, and a neurodivergent brain is a slightly different wired brain. So neurotypicals have a specific set of wiring, which is what we're sort of used to in society. We're told how everybody should present. Neurodivergent people have many more connections in their brain. So their neuronal connections are increased. They have more synapse connections, more neurons, and more of them are connected. So this means that they tend to have high sensitivity. They're more sensitive to lights. They see lights as brighter. They're more sensitive to colors. They see colors more vibrantly than a neurotypical brain would see it, because you actually have additional connections. So it's things like light, sound, sensory input, which would be the way things feel on your skin. So you hear that you always hear about tags in the neurodivergent community. Tags are a nightmare for a lot of autistic people because they just really feel uncomfortable, because we have those additional connections in our brain. So everything is more intense. We have higher sensitivity. And so, specifically with autism, we tend to struggle with communication struggle. We have a different kind of communication. So we're very straightforward, we're very blunt. We're going to be direct, and we're going to tell you what we mean. And in sort of general society, neurotypical communication, you're expected to sort of beat around the bush and just communicate in a way that alludes to what you're intending to say without actually saying it. So the challenges that we run into are people think that we are implying things that we're not implying, or they think we're rude, or they think we're being abrupt. So yeah, it's just a little bit of a different way of thinking and a different way of approaching the world. We tend to process information from the bottom up. So we need to know everything about something and how it works and why it works that way. It's not just like being told how something, like, I think we really want to understand every aspect of something.
Yeah.
Versus whereas like your average neurotypical person doesn't really care. You can just tell them something and they're like, great. We want to know we don't know the why, the how.
I was gonna say I'm like in my mind, I'm going through this checklist. I'm like, yep, that's me. Yep, yep. Like even when I was a kid, like I would ask a question because I really genuinely was just a very curious kid. I wanted to know how things work, and my mom would always tell me that's just how it is. That's just how it is, and I'm just like, why do you always say that? Like, why can't you just simply say I don't know? Or let me find it out for you. And it was just kind of like how she was wired, which is fine. That's who she is. But yeah, the one thing that is really, it still bothers me to this day, if I hear somebody eat or drink, oh my God, the
Yeah.
sound, I'm like, I could kill you right now. I do it
Yeah.
like my husband, like my daughter was drinking the other day. I'm like, stop it. Like, or like, same thing. And I feel like my husband probably does it more to like agitate me because he drinks normal. And all of a sudden when he like wants to agitate me, it's like louder. And I'm like, stop. You make me this cringy feeling. So yeah, I'm like, when you were like listing off all this stuff, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
feel like it's a huge superpower, especially being an entrepreneur. I feel like, I feel like when I was like in school, it was kind of like I tried to hide different stuff. And it's like now all the people that thought I was weird or whatever, or like different, it's like there's so many other people now that are coming out and like talking about their stories. And like, I feel like it's now like I use my ADHD now as like a superpower because it makes me, I like to be different. I've always liked to be different. And I feel like it, for anybody like that has autism or ADHD or like on the spectrum, whatever it is, I feel like it, they're really smart people, like really smart. And I feel like that isn't really talked about much. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story because it's
Yeah.
much needed. And I feel like it's probably why you're so successful in your business too, because you're creative, you're a coach. And I feel like sometimes, somebody that has like like a normal brain or like, that doesn't make them not successful. But I feel like compared to somebody that is neurodivergent, they might do different things to regulate their nervous system. But I feel like if you stick them side by side and you tell them to do this and you give them all the things they need to do, I'm sure the neurodivergent person is going to get done faster and much better. Just in my opinion, not that it's because I know this, it's just because that's kind of like how it is.
Yeah, we have hyper focus and we can be monotropic and just really focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So that can be really beneficial once you get through school.
Yes. Yeah. In school, it can be a little difficult, but yeah, once you get through school, that definitely can. So let's kind of talk a little bit about somatics, like in like business. So like um, for somebody that might be new to this kind of work, what would you explain as a role, like in their body, like what role does their body and nervous system play in like the decisions that they make? This could be like prices of their offer, maybe showing up on social media, or even like creating leads for themselves or like their team.
Yeah, so your body is really the foundation of your business. Your nervous system is the foundation of your business. And I actually started my business for fuck you money. I was in a not great marriage and I wasn't happy and I wanted to get out. And so that's why I started my business. Of course, I wanted to help people, but I really wanted to get out. So I was like, I'm going to become a coach. I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to do it. And like I told you in the beginning, I got into month 9 and I hit burnout because my nervous system was so dysregulated and I just didn't have the balanced nervous system that I needed to attract my clients in or to support them when they came in, that I just couldn't function and I couldn't really grow or scale my business. I kind of hit a plateau. So it wasn't until I really started regulating my nervous system by, choosing healthier relationships, changing my diet, increasing my exercise, really just doing holistic self-care and becoming selfish. Because I think for a lot of women, especially those who are neurodivergent or who are highly sensitive or who are raised, to give to everyone else first and put yourself on the back burner and take care of you last. And especially for moms, because this is a part of motherhood. Um, I had to really learn how to be selfish. And for me, being selfish is just being like your average person, having boundaries and doing, things to take care of myself. And that's what you have to do when you are a recovering people pleaser. And that's what I help my clients do is really learn how to set boundaries, enforce the boundaries, choose better relationships, take better care of yourself. And then the somatic piece, which is all about moving through trauma because your body holds trauma and it holds emotional memories within the tissues. And you can only get through so much in talk therapy and in talking things out. You can get through a lot, but there are things that are still trapped there that you can only get out through moving through those things. And so with my clients, I do a variety of different techniques and strategies, and we move through some of that stuck trauma and the stuck emotions that get left behind in the body. And it's really interesting because I see a lot of jaw issues, shoulder issues, and then pelvic floor issues. because when we go into fight or flight, the first places that we clench are the jaw, the shoulders, and the pelvic floor. And so if you're stuck in a dysregulated state and you're constantly in fight or flight and you're having trouble getting out of it, which is what happens with my clients who are highly sensitive, then you start to have issues like TMJ in the jaw. You might have pelvic floor dysfunction, issues with your bladder, for example. And then, a lot of my clients just have like rock hard shoulders because they just hold all that tension with muscle gripping. They're kind of white knuckling it through life. So we work through how to kind of let go of the tension that you're holding and to just realize that, you know what, it's okay to be here. It's okay. I'm safe. And I think for a lot of my clients, it's the first time that they've really been able to go, wow, I've never felt safe in my body.
Yeah. That's definitely an important part. Now, what would you say is important for nervous system? Because I feel like I hear a lot of people talk about, especially now, it's like the nervous system. I do like it the way that you talk about the nervous system differently. I'm not saying that this is you, but I've noticed that this is like a new thing that people are talking about, the nervous system. So, what would you say is important, like for receiving? So, like, the masculine piece is like the doing, right? So, it's like constantly doing, but then how do you know, like, when it's time to kind of pause and receive to help fluctuate your nervous system so it's not so go, go, go? And it also, like, pauses to be able to receive.
I think if you find that you are struggling to draw in the clients that you're wanting to attract, if you're struggling to make sales, if you're struggling to really to receive in any way, like if you notice that when someone compliments you, you brush it off instead of saying thank you, or if someone offers to do something for you, you just say no because you're stuck in that masculine power energy. I think it's starting to recognize those little pieces and then starting to practice saying yes to everything. If someone offers to help you to your car with your groceries, say yes.
Yeah.
Practice receiving because it is a vibration and it is an energy, and we do have to practice it. And on the flip side, until you feel safe enough to receive, you're going to kind of lock up and not let anyone come in and give you things. So,
Right. Yeah. I think often, especially women, or I should say moms, have a really hard time with that. I feel like, well, I just speak from experience, me, because I was always a giver. Like I'm not always a giver. I am a giver. So it's like, it actually makes me feel good that I can help somebody else out. So, and two, like, I never really felt safe in my body either. So, like, doing my own somatic practices and stuff was really powerful for me too, because I mean, I started out with yoga, and then I noticed that when somebody would offer different things to me, I kept saying no, because it's like, oh, I can't let somebody close to me, because I don't want them to hurt me or whatever. But then, like you said, it could just be very simple. Can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? Same thing with, like, in my marriage. um my husband came from a very wounded masculine place and a very wounded feminine place. So, like, the last 3 years have been very interesting because he is a giver as well. So it was kind of like, what are we doing? We can't both just give, So it felt, I should say, it felt safer for me to, when he would offer, let me cook dinner, or let me do this, or let me do that, I would be like, okay, yes. Like, and then it felt better because it's like, wow, I can really appreciate the small things, like, it's safe for me to say yes, just very simply. Like, it could be anything. I'm like, okay, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, there is that level of, like, expectation that I'm like, you better do it now. But yeah, no, it's definitely it has been a shift for me too, because I always feel joy and feel happy when I'm doing something for somebody else, and then I had to also turn that into, I can do this for myself too. It's the same thing. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely. So what is like one of the biggest myths that you had to unlearn about like your success, like productivity, or what it means to be like a good entrepreneur?
Hustle culture, bro marketing. I mean, it's so rampant, like that you have to keep
Yes.
your nose to the grindstone. You have to work 24/7. That's how I hit burnout that first time. And that is a very masculine way of going about entrepreneurship and about business. And maybe it works for an 18-year-old, 20-year-old guy who doesn't have any responsibilities or anything on his plate or a sensitive nervous system or, a womb. But it
Right.
doesn't work for us. Rest is productive. Self-care is productive. You know, I run my business from a more of a feminine place where I'm listening to the intuitive signals that I'm getting from my body, whether it's my solar plexus or my pelvic floor or whatever, where it's coming from. For me, it's like a gut feeling generally. Everybody has a different sort of zone where they get their bodily sensations that tell them this is a hell yes. Um, So I really tap into what my body is telling me because for a long time I lived my life by what my brain said. And logically, I did things in a very logical manner and ended up with just a life that I didn't want. And it just finally, dawned on me. I even growing up, my dad always said to me, like, trust your gut. And I just hadn't been doing it. I'd been really just living by, um, you know, my brain by being analytical about things, and it hadn't worked out great. So I really pivoted and started making my decisions based on what felt right. And things have just opened up and become so much more expansive and peaceful and really joyful since I've been doing what feels right because your body knows better than your brain. And if you try to logic something out as a woman, a lot of the time we will come up with a million excuses to do the wrong thing for us.
Yeah. And I love that you said that you're starting to listen to your body, which hints it makes sense that if you don't clear out that stuck trauma and, all the things that you need to clear out, or if you can't listen to your body, because people often say, well, like, this is all great advice, right? But like, how do I do it when, I mean, obviously they need to go work with you, but like, how do people do it when they don't even know how to make a decision? Or like that's what people say to me and I'm like, well, that's a loaded question, but like what would you say to that person that's like, how do I start, like where do I start?
Yeah.
Essentially.
So, I mean, I've been there and I've seen my clients there. And I think for a lot of highly sensitive women, we become people pleasers and we learn how to take care of everyone else and how to make everyone else happy. And we lose track of what we like, what we don't like, what makes us happy. And we just feel like our personality sort of evaporates and that can happen. And then you wake up one day and you go, who am I? What do I like? I don't like this thing that I've created, this life, and I want something different. So what I recommend to my clients is that they start with their childhood memories of joy. What brought them joy when they were a little kid? Did they love being outside playing in the mud? Were they really into Barbies? Was it like doing science experiments with baking soda and vinegar and watching you know, watching it bubble up or something? Did that make them happy? So going back to those childhood moments where you found the most joy and starting to tap into really getting back to practicing things that made you happy when you were a kid. Maybe it was dancing. Start dancing again, even if it's in your bathroom, with the door locked so that nobody sees you doing it and headphones in. Just sort of tapping back into what made you happy when you were a kid can really help you to recapture some of that joy and to start to reconnect with who you are and what makes you happy, because that's sort of the foundation of figuring it out.
Yeah, we have to have more fun. I feel like I always remind myself, like we have to have more fun. Just like my daughter, like the last couple of weeks have been really busy for me, which is great. But at the same time, my daughter's like, can you come play with me? And like, I almost wanted to say, no, I have to work. But then I was like, sure, I'll come play with you. So it's like, she's like reminding me like, Mom, you should have more fun, or like, come play with me. So I definitely, my daughter is like a great reminder of that. I mean, she's going to have a rude awakening when she has to go to kindergarten. She thinks she's going to be going playing, but we'll get there. We will get there. Yeah. So before we wrap up, is there like one nugget of wisdom that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think, if you've felt like you were different your whole life and you didn't really know why, then, maybe you have a different kind of brain, and that really is a gift. I know you called it a superpower, but it's something that makes you unique, and it gives you a lot of really unique skills that other people don't have. So you might want to lean into that and, follow your passions and listen to your intuition. And if you need support, then reach out to someone who can support you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with Michelle on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you check out her links in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this just on whatever platform that you listen to your podcast. Leave a review and then share this with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you are a current or inspiring to be fempreneur, suffering from the fear of being seen and or feel very triggered when you're building your business, reach out to me at The Mermaid Light about my Rich and Resilient Biz Baddies. This is a collective text message Voxer support group designed to help you heal your triggers and turn imposter syndrome into bad bitch energy. If you resonate with our conversations and insight, don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. So please make sure you stay connected with us on social media. Keep manifesting greatness in your life. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.